Hello, everyone. We're going to go over the assignment, which is related to determining a data source from a frequency distribution. This assignment is related to the information that we've learned and the stuff that we learned from chapter 5 of the textbook, which is related to discrete probability distributions. Discrete probability is about when you have a histogram, you have classes or bins, and then you accumulate the counts and the frequencies with that. It can also be related to discrete, meaning a whole number. So we're dealing with counts. If we look into the recent past, you can see that there are times when companies, large companies, performed accounting fraud. And some of this fraud could be found using automated computer processes. Companies such as Waste Management, where they faked $1.7 billion in earnings. Enron imploded after it was revealed that they hid billions of dollars in debt and they faked their earnings. WorldCom faked $11 billion in assets and revenues. And Satyam Computer Services faked $1.5 billion in revenue. The problem with faking data, people have a built-in bias. They can't do a actual random number. They kind of fudge things around. If you were to look at something that deals with a count, for example, we can use Benford's law to determine whether or not that count truly came from reality or was made up. This graph here is in blue, or excuse me, in green is the first digit of the number of Twitter followers for a number of accounts. In blue is highlighted what we would expect it to be the first digit based on Benford's law. Benford's law is also known as the first digit rule. You look at the leading digit in a number. The number 1 will occur up to 30.1% of the time. Number 2, about 17.6%. When you get down to the higher numbers, the first digit, odds of it being an 8 is about 5.1% and a 9 is 4.6%. When a company fakes their income, or when a politician is faking their campaign finance reports, they also have trouble and they like to use zeros. You'll find more zeros and fewer nines when you look at the accounts of fudged numbers. And that's because people like to round numbers to the closest hundreds or thousands when it comes to things like campaigns. For this assignment, these are the steps that we're going to go through. I'm going to give each of you 3 random ID numbers that are 4 digits long. These numbers will be used to identify a data set that you're going to give. Don't tell anybody what ID numbers you have. We want to keep these kind of anonymous. Each student will construct 3 data sets from an Excel template. Now, I'll provide you guys with the Excel template. One data set is going to be a simulation of 3 dice being rolled. So they're 6-sided die. They can have a value between 3 and 8 when you total them up. The second set is going to be the computer is going to generate for you random numbers between 3 and 18. And the last one is you're going to put in a number that you think is random between 3 and 18. We're going to do 100 of these for each of these data sets. Each data set will be identified by a 4-digit ID number. Then what you're going to do is you're going to copy your data set up to Google Sheets. We're going to have a shared Google Sheet. You're going to copy it up, and in the header, you're going to put the ID number that's associated with the data set. But don't tell anybody where that data set came from, how you generated it. I'm going to organize you into groups of 3 to 4 students. As a group, you guys are going to look at the data sets. I'm going to give you each group 3 data sets per member in your group. So if you have 3 people, you're going to get 9 data sets. You'll have about 15 minutes, and the groups will conduct a histogram of the data sets and then categorize. This is what it looks like, the 3 dice rolls. It's actually the computer going to be generating a random number between 1 and 6 and do that 3 times, and it's going to be added up. The computer generated random number between 3 and 18 is going to be done. And this is where you're just going to key in 100 numbers. If we look at a histogram of what we would expect and a frequency distribution, if you did 3 dice rolls, then with three dice, and this is after doing 216, because I wanted to make it kind of easy, you can see this kind of curve operation that's being done. This curve kind of runs nicely. It's a bell-shaped curve, runs real nice, and flows through. This is what we would expect. If you're rolling a die 100 times, we would expect 5.5 times each number would show up. Now I have 1 and 2 there. That's not true. It's really 3 through 18 is what we're going to be looking at. A little bit of a mix up with my data set there, or with my graph there. Finally, if you did human random, it's going to look a little bit different. It's not going to look like those 2. And that's because there's a chance there's going to be outliers, because people have bias in when they create data sets. When you're in Excel, you're going to create your histograms this way. You're going to click on data from the menu, and then you're going to click on, so you're going to click on data on the menu. You're going to choose data analysis, and from that drop down, you're going to choose the histogram. In your spreadsheet, you're going to, for this input here that goes here, you're going to put in the cell range for your data set. For your bins, you're going to have numbers 3, 4, 5, on down to 18. Those are going to be your bins, and that's how you're going to identify it. And then your output you're going to have in the same sheet. So when you're working with your group, you're going to create your histograms and review the data and try to interpret the histograms. As I said, each group will have 3 to 4 students. You'll get 3 data sets per member in your group, and you'll have 15 minutes to organize the data that you're given. Based on these, you would, figure out, for example, was it a roll? Was it a random number between 3 and 18, or was this somebody plugging in a number? Once you're all done, you're going to categorize, and then we're going to, as a class, review the results of everybody. And the person who actually created that data set, because you're going to specify data set ID number and what category it was, the person who generated that data set will then reveal how they generated that data set. This is the purpose of this exercise, is to go back and show you that there are ways to identify how fraud is being done. So if somebody's saying I'm rolling a die, but really they're using a random generator, you can determine that. Or if a person is faking data, they have bias and there's going to be outliers. And that's the whole purpose of this assignment. Okay. So go ahead and start once we're done here, I'll be giving you your Excel templates and start your data sets, and then we'll continue from there.